It's our second meeting of the Advanced Business Series with Josh and Peter and Beth. And sorry, grab your chair.
Get that straight out.
I'm just gonna see if we have any. I think I went to Point Reyes and I ate all the snacks. Oh, and I never poured any water in my tea.
Oh.
And it needs to steep, so I'll just let it sit here a little bit. Let's see, what do we got here?
Yeah, I use this for classes lately. Shane, Carl. I took certain kinds of audio notes in this, and then I took others. I did personal journaling in I like to say on the journal, but this is like exercises, things like that.
Do you ever find yourself going through that?
Very rarely, but it is here.
I have nothing in here. Gray.
What's that?
Gray.
Gray for this
Gray.
class. Oh, you have a color coded, yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, red was actually the last one.
Oh.
And gray is
Okay. Put it all in one spot.
and then blue is random stuff from other things.
Did you get the positive energy technique?
I've done it.
It was really weird. It was him saying positive energy, positive energy, positive energy, positive energy over and over and over and over. And I was like,
DNA.
Yeah, I took the
did you do that?
didn't stick. I did some of the exercises for a while.
Okay, here's what we got.
Whoa, so
Delicious.
better.
Rocks out of
You remind me of being a single mom.
the way. That's why I have them.
No.
I always have a bunch of saltines in the house. Okay, heart of business. Off with you. Who did you not do it with last time?
Okay.
I think I did it with Beth.
No, I remember doing it with you.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, so I'll do it with Peter.
Cool.
Excellent. Look at.
Okay.
We'll just change this over. Okay,
All right.
I'll be your heart of business first.
Okay.
So.
All right.
I'm feeling
You were the
not quite understood.
Okay.
So can I be the client and be the
Still checking into the roll a little bit. So this is a very nice roll because everything pleases it somewhat equally, which unfortunately means you too.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you please me, but the tree pleases me and the flowers please me. I don't have any focus. I don't seem to mind. It's almost like, yeah, I almost expect you to start doing like semaphore, like over here, it's me, it's me. And as long as you keep doing that, I'll
Keep coming back.
But if you stop,
Yeah. Just as easily distracted by this.
that's a really nice picture.
Okay.
So probably a little ungrounded or something.
Okay.
But it's good to be me. I'm happy to be me, and I like you.
I like you too.
What's your experience across from the heart of your business today?
That feels about right, actually. That feels sort of, I can understand how that might be coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of a reflection of some of what I've been looking at in the last couple months, really, and recently too. So,
I mean, if there was that.
so I hear you. I hear that, and it does.
Is it a positive kind of sense?
It does make me want to focus more. And there's still a part of me that's like,
In just the way that a economy tool is
focusing right now. Like, I'm curious, like how much I need to wave my arms.
Yeah.
To
I think I've suggested to you in the past to do something with the other focuses you have. Have I suggested that to you before in the past? I mean, I'm just without necessarily getting into any great depth. So it would be at least, it would include ceremony stuff,
Yep.
and NLP Marin work, and your wedding and your partner.
Yeah, that's a big one.
With at least those are the sort of the 4 big things in your life.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just be with that for a moment. So you just sorry, I put that kind of close to you.
Screening for flavors of pie. That each gets
So that was the ceremony stuff. That's NLP
So, and
Marin.
if I designate an order of how.
Burning Man probably deserves a card, but it goes away after.
Yeah, I wouldn't put anything that's temporary. Yeah. We're always going to have temporary things that yeah. I mean, that argue for our attention.
Yeah, the wedding is one of those places.
But the relationship is going to go on though and be in attention, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my first impression here is I really like this one. This one's my buddy.
Mhm.
Oh my god, where do I begin?
That one could be okay, but I'm actually a little cranky or irritated with it.
Mhm.
It's the NLP Marin. It's like, I don't know if it's rivalry or I'm not sure how we fit in with each other. That one I'm just kind of neutral about. That's fine without having much
That's actually really helpful.
energy
Yeah.
around it. And as these 4 with you, what is your feeling about these interactions? And then we'll bring it to a close.
Yeah, I mean, the ceremony work for me is.
How does it feel in the representation? As if you had 3 people here, what's it like? I know that's really hard, but just take a moment and see if you can feel how each of these feel and how they feel with each other.
Oh, that's not butter, it's cheese.
Ceremony feels like a pillar. It feels like a foundational structure for your life and also through your own business.
I have to say, the more this one's here, the crankier I get with it. I admit.
I feel like this is sort of indicative of that. This one is kind of like, it's like, feels like
Are you looking at something or
treading
not
water.
looking at
It
something?
feels like treading water.
Okay.
It feels, I mean, I know this is.
It's good.
Yeah. This one actually, in a way, doesn't feel like it belongs.
Yeah.
In the sense of this being an organizational constellation,
Yeah.
and that's family element in a way. That doesn't mean we don't have crossed organizational family constellations because they influence each other. But from here, as the heart of your business, I can feel like these are of like kind in a way, and this is of a different set in some way
Yeah, that's right.
for me. Even though ceremony is not work in a sense,
I'm glad you're
No,
listening.
but it's got a vocational quality to it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something from
As opposed to just something you dabble in. Or,
Yeah.
okay, feel good and
Yeah.
feel like
that
you got
feels
enough
good.
for now?
Thank you so much.
You might some point just take that and if you have some friends, step into some of the roles and see, you know, if they're ready to beat each other up or they want to love on each other or what they want to do. And you're like, you guys figure it out. I'm going for a walk.
Yeah. That would be interesting. Go back to this one.
Okay, part of my business.
outside of my mind. Support. It's just having this stuff.
That's what it feels like. It feels like sort of a download. I'm kind of happy. Yeah, it feels like a really lovely download. Getting lots of chills.
Yeah.
And I've seen
Hello.
these images of like farmers and like this whole sense
I
of
feel
plowing, like the what goes on there, you know, like
peaceful.
prepare the soil,
sort of
sure the seeds are right, and then you go plow your field here and there, like very like earth wisdom, very like practical. Like there's no
Peaceful.
metaphor for them,
feel peaceful
but
and
there
kind
really
of
is, you know, because like they know
calm
it inside out how to
and
prepare the soil, and how that
focused,
process is
actually.
time,
Although
season,
I do seem to like looking outside the windows a little bit.
timing.
Well, this is where most of you happens.
Yeah.
You have a nice office view.
Thank you for that.
I also
It feels
whatever
very.
here is
Actually, it does feel pretty
power.
grounded.
I do feel connected, and I want to feel more connected. I feel like that they're
Not
really.
sure what else to say.
Yeah. It's interesting. I actually got distracted for a moment and then realized, Leslie, you're in a constellation. And the interpretation I'm choosing to have on that is that I feel really good and solid about you, and I've got other things I've got some attention on, but this is okay regardless.
Yeah, it feels okay.
It doesn't feel like, oh, I have this thing that's kind of got my attention and it's going to do you any harm.
I've been,
And that feels really good to feel like I have something that feels like that.
Yeah.
You can have some messes and it's not going to get, it's not going to poison this well.
I feel very solid, and I feel like you can do other things, and I'm not going to disappear.
Yeah.
At the same time, I definitely want to keep our connection.
Yeah.
He's got some really serious stuff in front of him.
And I'm not worried about it.
Really
Yeah,
want to look at
yeah.
it. And, he said,
Yeah,
like,
I think that the honest thing to say to you is I but I really trust this, and thank you for trusting it too. Yeah, yeah. Okay,
That's how that's
good.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Cool.
Well done.
Okay.
Okay.
Like what's going on here, like the office,
Thanks for pulling out the
you
cards.
know about
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all this other stuff.
I love the power of index
And then
cards.
business-
The power of index cards.
So
Ooh.
it's almost like uploading
It's like,
something,
it's like the pendulum and the dowsing rod.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this.
Thank you for calling it a pendulum, by the way.
Oh, instead of a wizard.
I've come to be calling it that, and I don't. I don't mind a little bit of adolescent, but like as a steady stream, it's.
That's funny. Even a steady stream of wizard.
Yeah,
it's
really.
Like little kids in the bathroom. Kind of what comes to my own.
Carl really is a
This channel is something. More data, please. Kind of-
Yay.
Woohoo.
Notice I'm very huggy these days.
Yay.
I think it's Peter's fault.
Yeah, it is my
It's
fault.
all Peter's fault.
I have a tendency to do that.
Okay, so we're going to kind of do the same thing we did last time, since we're small enough group. I think taking the 20 minutes or less, if that's what happens, but to do our check-in is pretty useful. So basically the same as last time. And take a moment. I'm going to actually invite people to take the first few moments in silence, just to be with your business. But what's the pattern of what's working well? What's the pattern of what's challenging or difficult? This is going to be the same each week. Any insight from the little constellation you just did?
Can I pause for a moment?
Sure.
Just write down something from that.
Yes, please.
I want to write it down before I lose it.
Go for it. Sorry. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
While you're all doing that, I'll set up my cheat, which has not had enough time to cheat. That's not bad. Choose. With the saltines, it has a certain je ne sais quoi. I went to Point Reyes the other day, and I'm usually scrounging through my little snacky snacks to support myself. So. And there's plenty where that came from, so if for some reason we're blowing through those.
My mom had the metal tin and she used to refill. Sorry, it's not enough. Sorry.
That's all right.
Change the section.
Okay, look, give Beth another sec.
It's just the same word over and over again.
Oh, okay.
Plan, more planning.
Well, that's the theme for today. Okay, so the pattern of what's going well, the pattern of what's difficult or challenging. Anything you want to share from the Heart of Business exercise, and then questions or comments from the group. And begin by asking somebody to keep your time, because we're going to be timers for each other.
3 minutes? Or
5 minutes. Since I have mine in hand, I'll be the first timekeeper just to make life easy for people, but be ready to be a timekeeper for somebody. And who would like to go first?
What's going well, what's challenging, and so some part of it is
Any questions or advice or ponderous, useless thoughts about what you just shared? I'm just wanting, because you guys seem to respond well to each other, even when, you know, it may not be quite the right thing you needed to hear, you're still glad to be getting the engagement. So that seems to be working for the group. And Peter's staring at it. What? That?
I'm not
No.
starting.
No, because she's got a mouthful of food. Peter?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Um,
And
so,
I'll give you a 30-second heads up.
so pattern of what's working well. My life feels like it's been working well lately. I'm gonna have to branch into outside of business stuff if that's all right. Yeah.
That's fine, yeah.
Um,
As long as it's relevant.
yeah, the work that the support stuff that I'd been doing when my teacher was here on the ceremonies showed me and gave me some really good insight into just how much energy I actually do have and I'm capable of putting into things that I decide I want to put energy into. I don't remember if I shared this last time or not, but I was working like from like 9 a.m. until like 2 a.m. and having just enough time to get everything done. That was working really well. The coaching call with Leslie, working very well. I really appreciated that call that we had. I find that this group, even the swarm of everything else, may be the only thing that I'm doing to support my business at any given moment while I'm getting ready to go to Burning Man and the wedding stuff. But it's important and it feels really good. Things that are challenging. I am channeling that energy into doing anything really business related before I leave for Burning Man. That has not been working so well, and it's been a pattern that's been around before Burning Man. So I don't know if there's just going to be more excuses that keep coming up for reasons why I'm not sending out that email or not reaching out and necessarily like seeing clients in the house. I'm trying not to put too much energy into that, but it is a pattern that I've noticed from the past, and it feels a little different now, but I'm still not 100% sure because I'm on this side of everything. So, what else has been challenging or difficult? I can say the calendaring no longer feels challenging. So I guess that's really working well right now. Being able to block off like 3 or 4 hours in cycles for work stuff works really well.
Can you just share with the group the insight we had about how you couldn't do 8 hours and then, holy cow, there was a simple answer to this?
Yeah, so I was realizing that I would look at my calendar and if I'd see anything else or a couple of things on that day, then my head would just be like, oh, that day is full. And so I'd look and I'd have all this stuff on there and I'd be like, well, I don't have enough time to actually do a full 8 hours of work. And so Leslie's like, well, why don't you break it down to 4 hours? And I'm like, I have lots of 4-hour blocks that I can do these things. Isn't that interesting? And all of a sudden it just felt way better. I'm like, oh, 4 hours. I can do 4 hours. 4 hours is good. So
I just want to lift that up as an example for the kind of reframes. You may feel like something is hitting your head against the wall, but it's just,
it's like
what is, if the I think we talked
criteria,
about the criteria of getting things done. If it's 8 hours, we're stuck.
Yeah. My criteria, it had to be 8 hours, otherwise it wasn't working. And being able to do 4-hour chunks wasn't even on my map, and now it's totally fine. So that was really good. Okay, so
Which, by the way, is a self-employed thing. 9 to 5, 8-hour days doesn't tend to be the life of a self-employed person, which is one of the upsides.
coming from the business world.
Yeah.
I just didn't even
Yeah.
Insights from my heart of business. Ceremony work that I've been doing, good stuff. The business work with NLP Marin, I might want to take a look at that. For both my business and my perspective, it could potentially be a distraction or biding my time and may not be supportive of the actual practice work I want to be doing. So that's interesting.
Just an observation over the years, the people who fall into admin at NLP Marin rather than training roles often don't find their practices supported because they're not seen as practitioners.
Yeah.
The Shannons and the Julie Christines and the Denny's who all went through the program.
Well, I do think there's an in-between, like Cameron is in there, but he's not in there all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of us are independent contractor types.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if there exists a place where I can really make it an independent contractor support role to help pay the bills while I'm doing the other part, because that was sort of the idea of this.
Yeah. No, that's a good plan.
Yeah.
That's not a bad plan. Yeah. Just FYI.
So questions, comments
Oh, from others.
from the others?
Said something that sparked something.
No, you can
Okay.
finish your thought.
I just want to say I was in an admin role before I became self-employed, and I had to put strong boundaries around that so I could develop my business. Then I gave myself a very strong but clear transition. Like, hey boss, I'm leaving in 6 months, and that was my decision. But it was really helpful to have the frame and also the strong boundaries. And I remember myself.
I do feel like everyone there is super supportive of me having my own practice, and everybody expects everyone to leave at one point. So but this is good because there was a thought almost of like, what if I get more enmeshed, and how much do I want to get?
Yeah. Well, you don't want to be enmeshed at all. We're going to avoid that verb, generally speaking.
And this is the word that's coming up in my system, and this is really how it feels.
Yeah.
I also wanted to comment on this notion of, wow, look, you worked from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's just enough time to get everything done.
2
Like, 2 a.m., sorry. Your, whatever that part of you that is the energy part, the cauldron or whatever, like, wow, awesome. I just want to reflect that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So, wow, you could just take up that and, like, channel it in other different ways.
Yeah. I'd like to see that happen.
One other thought is at some point you might want to do a future pace exercise after Burning Man and after the wedding. Does this avoidance of doing business stuff go away or not? Not as a future pace as in making a DS and then filling it up, but what does your brain think is going to happen, right?
Like
and then
step
into it, and get a sense of, the wedding and Burning Man stuff it was actually a screen, or, oh my gosh, it feels really different.
I mean, I have been playing with that one already.
Yeah.
And the feeling is that when I get back from Burning Man, like, the bins are going away quickly, and I am really stepping it up, because the wedding is a lot less energy,
Cool.
strange as it sounds, than Burning Man is for the short intensity period of time.
Yeah.
So I'm putting this out to the group so that when I come back from Burning Man, if I repeat the same cycle, I actually have that reflected back to me. So,
Okay.
I have just a brief comment, which is like experiences of like getting stuff done or not during high activity times, like ceremony organizing time or Burning Man prep. And like it's been really available for me in the past to be like, oh, Wendy's in town, I don't have time or energy to do anything. And this last time she was in town, I like was having this experience of like just making it work. Like I would have something I wanted to do, like decide I had enough time to do it, and like I would have enough time, and like I would bang out these little things. And those are still always the perfect opportunity to like put off something that like really requires more time and space. So it might be a matter of like during the high activity times finding other little tasks that you can fit in. And for me, it hasn't really been a mental thing. It's been more of a like, what do I feel like? I feel like I really like feeling into what task I can do and want to do and will fit in and making that happen. I don't know if that would be a helpful thing for you, but that's what came to mind as you were talking.
Feels like an adjustment of my criteria.
Yeah.
Something's needed.
And probably a different level of maturity of the business there's some differences here.
Sure.
Like you have little projects you can kind of do in a way that's sometimes harder in the beginning.
Mm.
The other thing, I just had one other insight, and my apologies. Sending out the email, one of the things that Mark Silver, Heart of Business, makes really clear that I think is so important, and I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. Marketing and selling is intimacy. It's a kind of intimacy. You know, just like handing over $10 to the cash, person is intimacy. It's not the deepest sort, but it is a kind. And for you, the letter writing is a bit more than average intimacy. You're doing a lot of intimacy in your life right now, and I'm wondering if your intimacy bucket is full.
That's interesting. This is where when I look at the letter that I'm sending to friends and family,
Yeah,
it's already
exactly.
intimate just automatically.
Yeah. So it's just I don't know if that's true. It just kind of hit me. So if that's something worth exploring. Next person.
I've got a frolic
I can find somebody.
All right. What's going well? So at ceremony, I found out that apparently I'm a leopard, and one of the things that it showed me was,
Leopard's cool.
yeah, very cool. They don't do a lot until they get hungry, and then boom, and then they're back to not.
Except for
doing a
just
lot.
looking really sexy all the time.
That's right.
They sit there and they look sexy.
So what's been working well is that I've been stalking some prey called Funding Burning Man, and which I'm doing super cheap but not zero. And I'm really putting myself out there aggressively, not like overtly aggressively, but it feels aggressive to me. I'm just offering to people my services in a way that I haven't normally.
Oh, nice.
And I have this great excuse, which is, hey, I'm doing a Burning Man special before I leave, so now's a great time to talk to me about this if you want. And so people are doing it, and it's also this guy. One of them was this guy on Facebook who was I've been getting the feeling like it'd be really good to do some work with you, but then it was oh well, we can talk about it after you get back from Burning Man. And I was yeah, but my Burning Man special will be over then. He's oh, well, I can talk to you on tomorrow then. And I was great.
And you're so in alignment as you say all this. No,
Yeah.
it's not even a little sleazy,
No, it's
which it could be if you were in it the wrong way.
It's just the truth.
Yeah.
And I wasn't attached. It was if you don't want to hear about the Burning Man special, that's fine. You can take whatever time you need. So really navigating, being in the right relationship with people, and holding, there's this hunger for income and for also just sustaining myself, but at the same time, that's mine. It's not the clients, and we've talked about this sort of
And we're
thing.
going to talk more about it today too.
And really not putting that on them, and really I'm having to remind myself consciously sometimes, but I've been doing that and it's been working, that the goal here is to be of service and to nurture relationships. And so it's when there's a choice where some part of me might want to push it to try and get what I think I need versus, oh, what's going to be most in service of the relationship here is to not push that. I've been not pushing it, staying in rapport. And I just enrolled a guy for his first session, which will be, he's not interested in the Burning Man special, but he scheduled a session with me for when I get back. So it's I need money when I get back too. So this is all good. And it's making these efforts. And I started a list in my to-do app of new client follow-ups. So there are the people I've been talking with and the next steps I have to take with each of them. And so it's a little bit of CRM that I've never really done before.
CRM.
Customer relationship management.
Okay.
In the corporate world, they have these big software systems, companies
Right.
to do all of this. I just need a list, but I've never really done that before.
Right.
not in any organized way. So that's all working, and it just makes me think of like, how can I continue to keep goals in front of me that pull me toward taking actions?
Mhm.
And if I want to have an experience of more than enough money, how can I have goals that pull me that way instead of just the goal of like making rent? Because the goals I've had really just keep me at enough. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah. Nice.
So that's one of the things that's challenging is like really wanting to move toward an experience of money that's like just enough plus or minus to like definitely plus.
Right.
My next step for the website project is to design templates. At least that's how I've been holding my next step, and I don't feel the time and space to do that, so I haven't been working on it at all.
Interesting.
What's that?
30 seconds.
So maybe I need a different goal there, next step to keep moving on it. And then insight from part of business, I was asking about ancestral support the other day, and my part of business all on its own was recording, listening to this like voice of wisdom from the past. That sounded great. And just this idea of, I'm gonna go over this a little
Yes.
of having this loop between me and the business of like exchange, like what is it I give the business, what does the business give me, and like getting clearer on that so that that data is in the field, basically. That's what I got out of what we did.
That's what it said.
It's interesting. What that sounds like in the system between you and your business is respecting the order of love with respect to a balance of giving and taking. So it's not always the business always giving, which would be one imbalance, or you always doing all the giving and the business doing all the taking. Which I think our imbalances self-employed can fall into on either side.
So it sounds like a partnership model, like when people are in partnership, it's a equal give and take.
I'm not sure if it's equal give and take, but it's a balance of giving and taking, and I don't know what that would be with a business necessarily, but you know it when you feel it's right in a constellation, right?
What was the phrase you used? Respecting?
The order of love with respect to the balance of giving and taking. So balance of giving and taking is one of Bert Hellinger's orders of love in a system.
And Josh, I wanted to give you feedback on one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I learned this in sales, that part of sales is what's called limiters. So you can limit in time, or you can limit in money. And you've basically done that. You're like, for limited time only, I'm offering a special. And it's full of integrity for you. And it gets people to act now. And it's beautiful what you created.
But it's also not a fake one.
No, it's completely
Most of those are not,
totally fake.
yeah, they're very unfortunate.
Yeah. And people do that. It's like, here's our sale. Our sale runs from this date to this date.
And ends on this day. Exactly. It does spur people to action because that's part of sales. It's getting people who are ready to act.
Yeah.
That's the hardest.
Excellent.
I just wanted to say I love how you put that together with the Robert, because we've been talking a little bit about what you discovered around this thing that you're hungry for. I wrote down in my book actually, like, what am I hungry for?
That's a great question.
Well, and that's actually, we don't use the word of language of hunger here, but need.
Yeah.
So we'll be getting to that.
I'll go next. Wants to time me.
I will time you.
No, I don't do very much. Let's see. Pattern of what is working well. I was sharing this with Leslie in our one-on-one call. We started a practice, a spiritual practice of at night writing what I'm calling deep listening notes. That doesn't all have a name, but my intention is to do a little bit of writing and with the intention of deep listening to self, present self, and future self, and past self, mostly present and future. And most nights I'm writing a few sentences, a few paragraphs. It's totally stream of consciousness. I try and come up with sort of like a watchword. I just kind of notice what is sort of up. I have little dialogues with myself, and I'm noticing it's a very delicious and fruitful exercise that sprung out of a previous little nighttime exercise on Fibonacci numbers, which totally frustrated me. But what I liked about it was the daily sort of check-in. So that's working. I don't do it every night, and that's okay. I totally let myself off the hook. I check in with myself. I'm like, no. Or, yes. So that feels like this really interesting little foundation, or big foundation, that is helping me feel very secure, very safe, I guess, within myself. Because I notice in me and others that I work with that there's a lot of beating up of ourselves. Especially, I mean, with writers, we're trained to be super critical because it's part of the writing process. But, so, anyway, I'm just softening that approach to me. And I notice that I'm requesting everybody who I'm working with to do the same. I'm very fierce, I'm like, being really hard on yourself. Let's explore. Let's address that. So, being super gentle, I guess, is working really well. And then it's showing up in everything I'm doing. I'm super busy. I'm doing a lot. I just turned in my novella to my beta readers, and I got 2 awesome pieces of feedback from 2 different people. Really love it. Great tension. So happy. Feels so good. So what's working well? That's what's working well. What comes to me right now is I feel like I am showing up for myself in all ways, like listening when I'm hungry, listening when I need to move. I went running the other day. I'm like, wow, like really listening. I need to move. I need to eat. I need to sleep. Taking naps. Like really paying attention, not worrying about the rules or some shoulds or all that is. So that's something really organic and very delicious. What isn't working so well, I still spin off into chaos and confusion. And I feel like I don't have a proper bridge from that, because I think it's a stage of creativity and work and life, to the next stage, which is planning, which is on my agenda and on your agenda. Very much, I feel the need to get to that island. It feels like I'm in the eddies of this crazy river. I can't control it. I feel really lost, confused, and upset and angry and without resources, and I want to get to that island called planning. And it's like, okay, we've done this before. We've done this a lot before. How come we're in this eddy again? I'm feeling completely resourceless and a little bit out of my depth. I've had a few times in the river like that, in the real river. So that's kind of where I'm at. Insights from Heart of My Business is that my business has a lot of energy and it just needs me to tell it where to go, which I kind of knew. And as soon as I presented the macro notion of planning, Heart of My Business relaxed, and I was like, okay, when do we get that? And I use the metaphor of a pie. When do we get to eat that pie, and how do we get to eat it? Yes. That's exactly what I wanted to do. Yeah, that's what's up. I just want one tiny share. I went to a meeting of Capoeira women yesterday for the first time in a really long time. And it's like I let myself be a part of that.
Oh, no.
And it was so nice. I even talked about sort of my embarrassment about my hands and how when I go to Capoeira, I show up as me. There is no disguising. That is me trying to do some crazy move across the floor and having a hard time of it or whatever. And that is me who can do things, and that is me with my hands, and there I am.
30 seconds.
And they're just nodding,
Right? They're not going,
no, they're like, yep. And I expressed how I felt awkward, very, very awkward, and like 3-year-old. And some of them are like, yep. Even the most experienced woman in the room, who's like my teacher sometimes, she's like, yes, me too. She's Brazilian, and I'm like, really, you? Okay. The other women were like, yeah. Okay. So it's just so nice. It was very organic. I'm really happy that I gave that to myself. Being around women who move the body.
Lovely.
Any feedback? Short
Not feedback, just an association. I don't know you or anyone here has ever read Janine Roth.
The dance expert.
No, connected to. She wrote on eating. She had a really big breakthrough as far as I'm concerned in like the 80s or 90s, in which she was railing against this whole deprivation limitation way of trying to manage food, and it's about listening to what your body wants is all she's about. So it might be interesting to you to visit her. Janine Roth. I think there's a different Roth who's the dance person.
Gabrielle Roth.
Yeah. Gabrielle Roth. Yeah, this is Janine. Yeah, another G. It is a G. G-E-N-E-E-N.
G-E-N.
E-E-N. Janine Roth. Yeah, she'd be interesting for you with your body stuff.
Yeah, I'm very into what you just said.
Yeah. So
I suddenly saw a bridge between the chaos and the island of planning, which is listening.
Yeah,
Which is my
yeah.
favorite skill.
Yeah, often chaos is like going, I am trying to say something to you, and I'm going to get louder. Sorry, this is a mouth going up and down.
Okay.
Sorry.
It felt like chaotic waves of some water in the river.
Who's the chaos crocodile?
That's it.
The chaos crocodile?
I know how to manage a chaos crocodile.
We don't want to manage it, we want to listen to it.
Well, I mean, it's biting the leg of the fool in the major arcana of the fool. And it's all the fears, the worries, and the concerns. And the fool is going, dum, dum, yes, I hear you, Anne. I'm going for
Over the cliff.
Yep, I'm really close.
With the bridge listening.
Anything else?
I had a question, which is, isn't being able to drop all your criticism also part of the writing process when you're just trying to get a draft?
Yeah. For sure.
So, like, is it just a matter for you of, like, being able to drop into that when you need to in more context than just the first draft?
You got it.
Okay.
Exactly.
So it sounds like you already know exactly how to do it.
Oh, yeah.
That was sly NLP work there, Joshua.
Very good. What did you just do?
Yes, I do know how to do that. Squeeze that arm.
Very good.
That's right.
I also wanted to say I really appreciate people listening to myself and my needs piece. That's been coming up a lot more for me lately. Especially myself noticing when I'm doing things that aren't conducive to what I want to be doing. And sometimes my body wants things that I don't want if I do things to it that I don't necessarily like. Not supportive of what I'm doing. So that really just helped land that a little bit.
Yeah, it's like being upset and noticing that I really wish I could eat a donut, but knowing if I eat a donut, I'm going to break out, I'm going to itch, I'm going to have a stomach ache. So what I really want is comfort. Let's find another way for that.
Strategy versus need. If you're familiar with that language. With the donut's the strategy to meet the need.
Right. Find another way.
And like we confuse them. We think that our strategy is what we're needing. Unless we stop it.
Yeah.
There's one thing I want to say, and I don't quite know what it is, but it just goes along with what you were saying about your hands, which is maybe I'll just report my experience and you can take it for what it's worth. As you were talking, I was letting myself look at your hands as you were gesticulating. I have to try not to look at people in those ways. And for me, it was an experience of like really appreciating the uniqueness of your hands. They're freaking awesome. So
That's what says.
that was my
I don't
experience
get
over
that
here.
reflection back much very often.
Yeah. So maybe just like everyone's experience of you is going to be their own, and it's about them, and that experience is available to people, and it might be that how you are inside yourself has an impact on some people in terms of helping make that more or less available for them as a potential experience. Does that make sense? So it's like if we're really like insecure or something inside ourselves about something, then that can help people have a less enjoyable experience of us. And like if we just own whatever it is about ourselves and like we're totally cool with it, that can help other people have a better experience of us. And we can control it, so it's not like something that you do for other people, but there is that back and forth thing.
Yeah, and what I hear for me is what I have around me is kind of a protective bubble. So it's kind of like, look at me, but don't look at me. So whatever, and then that's masking something. And whatever that's masking, I need to make friends with so that I can allow, there's room for people to have everything, whatever. And I have a very good buffer around me. I'm here and this is who I am and don't look at my hands or look at my hands. I don't care. I'm not paying attention to that part of things. That's kind of-
Which is fine sometimes too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very useful.
Okay, you're gonna time me?
I am.
What's been working well showed up actually in the Heart of Business constellation, which is it is something I spent basically the weekend. The Heart of Business people have virtual retreats once every 2 months. So the last one was on Friday, and then the next day I went to Point Reyes all day and continued the focus. So it was about a day and a half of really trying to become conscious and work through some stuff for myself. And one thing that I really got out of that is that my business, I'm 50 years old, almost 51. I've had an interesting life, shall we say. But at this point in my life, I can say, well, actually, I'll tell you the story. I first met Carl in 2007. I was a guest client at a demo. And he worked on me in front of a group of small students. And he said, so what would you like? And I said, well, there's only 3 things. My work is horrible. I really want good work in my life. And I have no relationships. I really want relationships. And I'm depressed all the time. Which means everything. Oddly enough, he did not chunk down. It was really strange, looking at it and like, oh, he didn't chunk down. I'm like, why he didn't chunk down? Anyway, so I look at my life now, and my business not only is working really, really, really well, but if I look at myself, it's the one place where I've experienced myself as being easily in congruence, or mostly. So when I get out of congruence, I have a nice little, alarm system that helps me get back in without a lot of anxiety or stress about, if a client complains about something, or I momentarily get cranky, or something isn't enrolling as quickly as I want, or whatever it is. And it's really, really natural. I don't have to give myself pep talks about, Leslie, you should look at this differently. That kind of thing we do when we know we're getting a little about stuff. And it's really solid and very reliable. And that's mostly not true in the rest of my life. And so that's interesting, I mean, we could take this into that, take all that congruence into the other areas. The way I'm thinking about it more is, can I take that circle of congruence and expand it into other areas? That's actually the way I'm thinking about it. So anyway, that's really been interesting to reflect upon and notice, who is a Leslie when she's really congruent? And what would that be like when sitting across from a guy at a bar and trying to flirt? Or some other things going on in my life. So anyway, for me, it's like the business is genuinely becoming the lens for what it means to become more and more fully myself and in alignment. So that covers pretty much everything. All 3 things. So any responses or thoughts or questions or wise advice?
I really appreciate how it feels like a modeling for us, how your business has created this sense of congruence in your life, and I don't know, I look at that and go, how cool, how awesome, wow. So, and it's like a vibration that I can locate, and use as a beacon. Over here in this space.
Well, it makes me think about, I had a client about a week ago who's 99% of her life is crazy, but she's got a really good marriage that's really safe and really a good balance of giving and taking and totally respectful. And I sort of went to her, how did you manage that? She says, I've got no idea. But we both kind of went, cool, there is this one place in her life where she knows how to be who she is, and it's really good. And I'm wondering if and then there are people for whom they just kind of don't have that in any area of their life, really. They don't know what it is to really be in a consistent region of their life in alignment with themselves.
That
But-
imaging is fascinating.
Mhm.
You said place where she knows how to be who she is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of it.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, like, if we were to do like a Venn diagram of all the parts that you identify as congruent in the business, and just as words and or adjectives or whatever, and notice how they show up or resonate in those other areas, so that you can start drawing the lines from where they are in your business, finding the overlaps. Like maybe there are little parts of the other
Yeah.
parts of your business where there's an overlap. And like, oh yeah, this is working well in the business. In what way is there an
Yeah.
overlap? And to
Yeah.
start to sort of see the connections that are already existing in the present time.
It's possible, yeah. Venn diagrams.
And there's so much
I just appreciate hearing very relevant things from both of you guys. That sense of congruence and where it shows up personally in my experience, and honoring that, noticing that, and hearing that, like the one place where I don't feel it right now is congruence. Congruence is necessarily like 100% of my business, but I feel it in my relationship
Yeah.
and other things. And insecurity reflect that. I feel like out here, but not necessarily the other places. Something with that just feels really nice to hear. So, I don't think I have anything else to say.
C2? Okay, so we're on the theme for today. Very much so. Themes. So the first half is going to be on this thing that I've been promising. I did some work with you in the first one, but I've been promising to do more work with you, which is this inner guidance stuff, which has been kind of the focus of the conversation so far. Are you chilly? Do you need a lap blanket or something? Because there's several behind the
yeah,
gentleman.
no, this is good so far. Yeah,
Okay, because I noticed
Thank
your feet are bare.
I kind of like that part.
Yeah, okay,
It's
good.
the upper body that tends to.
If you need anything, I
Thank
have
you.
sweaters and
I don't want to get too much
Sweatshirts.
sleep. I'm sleep deprived, which is.
okay. So that's the first half, and there'll be an exercise around that. And then the second half is what I'm calling, taking a little bit from the Heart of Business People, heart-based planning. The reason why I'm doing it this way is because it's going to use what I'm going to teach in the first half. Okay. So that's today. Start out with a little bit of a lecture, and so I'm actually going to use this. Basically, this is a framework that you guys are already super familiar with. We'll just call this inner guidance. It's a combination of ecology check plus reframing. So it's not fundamentally different from the other stuff you do when you decide you want to do a little constellation on something, or a mental constellation on something, or you start doing an outcome frame on yourself about something that isn't working. Oh my God, I'm feeling horrible about this. What would I like? What would having that do for me? And what will having that do for me? And you go through the whole thing, and you get a little, and every once in a while, you'll go right through a pattern. You'll go, oh God, I know what the reimprint is. Let's give the little one, blah, 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 and you've helped yourself a little bit with this thing, right? It's not fundamentally different, but I have to say, for me, in terms of my business and kind of the nuts and boltsy reality of business, those tools, just for me, had limitations. In terms of speeding up the process of, oh, I'm out of alignment, let's get into alignment. Just moving it a little faster for me. And so this prayer practice from the Sufis, which I'm going to mostly teach you but amend a little bit so it's not so Sufi, is for you to use and amend in any ways. I have found that this has been kind of truly, if I am congruent in my business, this piece and doing this regularly has been at least 50% of what got me there, for what it's worth. Okay. The question that, and again, this is all mostly from the Heart of Business People, is when I'm stuck, when I'm angry at a client and they're not paying me what they're supposed to, and whatever your thing, or I was going to send out this email a long time ago, right? But I'm not. No. The question is what do I need? Now, for those of you who, and I don't know a lot about this, but I do understand that questions of need are part of the NVC model, nonviolent communication model. With a bit of a twist here, though. It's really not the NVC thing. I'm going to do a handout. Michigan. Who's in Michigan? I don't know anyone in Michigan. I'm going to get back to this question in a moment. These are from Islam. Sufi is an Islamic, esoteric Islamic practice, right? And in Islam, generally, but I think the Sufis are the ones who really get into this, is the 99 names of God. And they take this from the Quran. And this extra step the Sufis have taken have said these are the divine qualities. They're lovely human qualities, but these are the divine qualities. Okay? And the divine qualities are needs that we all have, we all properly have, that we can only get sourced from oneness, from source, from Allah, from Tao, whatever you like, your favorite divine name, Joe, Big Joe in the sky, right? Okay, so I'm really stuck writing my email and sending it out. I'm not gonna get into you. If that were my issue, what do I need? I am really needing some sense that I'm needing reassurance that I'm not like imposing in any way on people. So reassurance, we all need reassurance. Yeah? And then the Sufis would go through this list and find the thing that's kind of closest to that. Yeah? Now, I want to say as you begin to look at this list, there's no need to get into it too much, but the Sufis do say that some of these are quote-unquote subtle qualities, which are quote-unquote the nice ones, the one we really like. And then there are things that are called the majestic qualities, which are the ones we don't like so much. The preventer, the one who puts obstacles in our paths. The delayer. Fuck you. And generally speaking, when we're doing this work, we're looking at the nice qualities, just by and large. Not that for more advanced work, looking at some of the majestic qualities can be super useful. You know, what might be divine about delay? You know? Anyway, so what do I need? And then we move into which divine quality am I needing for? And then we'll notice that we're trying to get the divine quality out of our experience of writing the email, which the email writing cannot provide us with, no matter what. The clients we get out of it can't provide it. The experience of writing and sending it out can't provide it. Only Allah can give it, or source, or whatever we like to call that thing. And so we need to turn to source for these things. Having done that, we can go back to our issue, having been hopefully resourced in our practice. Now that's always that's the magical piece. Because sometimes you sit down and you say, okay, source, I'm really needing love. That's a nice simple one. I really, really, really know I'm unconditionally loved. And then depending on our practice, we experience that or we don't experience it. That's why Sufis recommend doing practice, you know? But the idea is having gotten that feeling that God goes happy to give you that experience of unconditional love. You can go back to the issue and actually find out, now are you free to do it? Or is there something going on that I need to look more at? Like there's a piece of help I need. There's, I need to spend more time with this. This is actually not what I want to do at all. Throw it away, whatever it is. Okay. Now, this is really important. There's a really important human quality. This is not a divine quality from their point of view that we need when we're doing this, which is what they call, and I don't know what the original Arabic is, but the word is sincerity, which is the absolute desire for reality. No, yeah, little grimace from Beth over there.
Well, the word reality always goes.
Yeah.
Reality.
Yeah.
Please.
This does presuppose that there is some reality to be kind of noticed, like something like, well, I'll get to an example in a minute.
Did you say absolute desire for reality?
Yeah.
As opposed to.
I'll take the reality if it feels good.
Otherwise, I'm going to be in resistance.
Yeah, right.
So it kind of feels like a what is, like FAA, like hello to what is.
It is, but also with an inquiry with wanting to see what it is.
Okay.
Right? I mean, FAA.
Curiosity about what is.
Yeah. So this is sincerity. The question that they often ask, which I actually use a lot, which I really like, is what's really here? It's simple. It doesn't sound like much, but what's really here?
Haven't you opened up a call, one-on-one call
Yeah.
like that? I really like that.
Yeah.
What's really here?
There's another way that I've mentioned it before, because often this is a reframe. It's change work on yourself to even ask the question, but is love even here? Is another one that Mark uses a lot. Is love even here? So if I'm in a monster conflict with my partner in business, and all you're feeling is rage and hurt and betrayal, so it doesn't feel like there's an ounce of love in the experience, to ask, is love even here, is quite a remarkable question to ask. It does stack the bit a bit, but given that we're all F1s here, you guys haven't gotten F1 yet, have you?
Hello.
Did you do a little bit of it?
CCB.
We saw the CCB.
Okay, yeah. And you've done it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've heard Carl literally say that it surprised me when I heard him say it that the universe is slightly biased towards the positive.
Mm-hmm.
Carl, you've been teaching this stuff for years and you haven't said that. Okay. Okay. So now there's some presuppositions going on here for me. It kind of gets back to NLP presuppositions. They don't claim to be true, but they do claim them to be useful, right? That's the claim about them. I think this one is useful. I'm not sure it's true, and I'm not sure our NLP practice would agree that it's true.
Agree that what's true?
I'm about to get to it.
Oh, okay.
That we have an inner knowing system that knows the difference between some version of what is real and what is not real. That we have an inner knowing system. So from within our fight-flight patterning or devotional patterning, yeah, the quote-unquote distortion is true. It's absolutely true. Yeah? And part of our job as practitioners is to get in rapport with people for whom these experiences are totally true within that space of the fight-flight patterning. What I'm presupposing here is that there is a higher consciousness which has got some awareness about the really true.
So what were the exact words you said before?
I have no idea.
Oh, I thought you had them written down. It was something like we have an inner knowing system that has an idea of what's really true and what's not.
That's good, great. Yeah.
Would you call that intuition? Like a true intuition, like a true north sort of guy?
You know, I have to say I'm not really big on the word intuition because I think intuition sounds magical when actually I think what's running good intuition is actually a whole lot of B's, A's, K's, O's, and G's that we have gotten ourselves sensitive to. Yeah. And we train ourselves to be more and more sensitive to it. And the other reason why I'm not really fond of the word intuition is that people misuse it like crazy.
Yeah.
I just have an intuitive sense
Yeah.
that we met each other on Venus about 2,000 years ago. And I'm like,
I say that description that I've just personally been going over this particular thing over the last few months.
Yeah.
And I feel a strong resonance.
Right. And the nice thing is that when, like, as a practitioner, sometimes you know something really fast about somebody and you're like, oh my God, how did I know that? But eventually you can kind of untangle how you figured it out. It's just moving so fast for you now. You're just seeing the representation so quickly. You actually got it that quickly. That's the way my experience with this is when you sit down with sincerity to see what's really here. It's not like, oh, I just have an intuitive hit. It's like, oh, I get why I'm like, oh, I want to live in the country because, oh, whatever that intuition is, the because is usually a big part of it. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I just, a caveat here, this is not proper teaching for everybody, okay? When someone's deep in their pain, telling them, you know what, you just need to get in touch with your higher truth about this, that's not very friendly business. I almost don't want to say this, but this is a bit of a higher teaching. It's for people who don't want to hang out in victim consciousness and have an awareness about that now. Yeah. And so they're kind of ready to go, okay, yeah, I'm gonna like be critical about my fight-flight responses to stuff with total FAA about it, but like it may not be true. Is this helpful so far? Okay, so with this I want to just play a very short audio clip from Mark on sincerity. Now that I know where that is, wonderful key.
So the first major topic that I want to cover with you as a group, I'm going to go ahead and mute you all so I can just give this teaching and the recording can be really pure for people listening later, for you all listening later. But I want to teach on the topic of sincerity. Sincerity is a quality that is fundamental. It's called the most important quality for the seeker. It's the most important quality for the seeker. And sincerity, you've heard me refer to the divine qualities. Sincerity is not one of the 99 divine qualities or infinite divine qualities. It is a human quality. And yet it is a deeply important quality. And we want to work with it over the next couple of weeks because I want us to all deepen our sincerity wherever our sincerity is. And so I want to talk a little bit about sincerity, and then I'm actually going to read to you from Music of the Soul to give you a transmission of sincerity from my sheikh. So here's a little bit of a quote. When Muhammad, may the blessings and peace of Allah be upon him, was asked about al-Ikhlas, sincerity, he said, I must ask the angel Jibreel, which is the archangel Gabriel. And when he asked Jibreel, said, I must ask Allah. And when Jibreel asked Allah, Allah said, it is one of my secrets that I give only to those whom I love among my servants. Even the angels do not know, and no devil can destroy it. And then my sheikh also wrote some poetry. He said, open the eye of your heart to catch a glimpse of his, capital H, of Allah's truth. Such a glimpse is more than a dream. To lose yourself in Allah, to lose all of the sciences of the earth, to listen only to what the truth says. Sincerity is a special quality given to humans. It's an absolute desire for reality, capital R reality, no matter what. It's what draws us forward toward the source of love, No matter what deserts need to be crossed, what burdens need to be abandoned, what mountains need to be climbed. Truth, reality, both of those are divine qualities. The divine is the real, divine is the truth. Sincerity is what draws us towards the truth. It's what draws us towards the real. One way that sincerity really serves us and why it's so important is that it cuts through the drama. Because drama arises in our lives when we're invested in being right about a story that explains to us how things are. Our minds are really good at explaining things. Sincerity is not concerned with any story. It's just concerned with what really is. Here's a very small example. It's like I was teaching on this particular quality to the Heart of Business team, and I let them know that I was going to read actually the very same thing that I'm going to read to you all. And one member of the team spoke up to tell me about the reaction that came up for them. Oh no, Mark's going to read, because I've done this to them before. And but then what happened is that after the reading, the same person explained that there was a great deal of value in hearing the reading. And sincerity cuts through that initial story. Oh no, it's going to be boring. Oh no, it's going to be this way. Oh no, it's going to be that way. And allows you to be present with what truly is. We were talking before about what Steve brought up, the question about, oh, my heart feels, blocked or like stone or what have you. Sincerity is what cuts through that. Sincerity allows us to see the jewel that's really there. Ali Klaus is the sincerity, and it's also the highest courtesy, trust, offering, and gift. There's a lot of complexity and layers to what Ali Klaus is. And so as a way of transmitting to you, I'm going to read from Music of the Soul, the chapter on Ali Klaus. Seems like we definitely are going to go over by 5 or 10 minutes, perhaps. And when I read from this, I'm not going to read every single time that we meet. I don't think. We'll see. But when I do read, what I want to encourage, my experience is that this book, Music of the Soul, carries a lot of light. Okay, so it carries a lot of spiritual light. There's a real transmission in it. There are times, sometimes I open up this book or other books, and I feel the light coming off the pages. And so what I'm wanting to do is, like, as I read this to you, I want to encourage you to just be in remembrance. If questions come up, if things come up that's hard, those are good things to kind of jot down or remember to work with for later. But for right now, just let it kind of wash over you, and whatever comes up, comes up. All right? And then after I finish the reading, we'll sit in remembrance for a couple of minutes, and then
I'll just end there because the next one is the actual reading, which we're not going to listen to. It's very lengthy and entirely mystical.
Sounds lovely. Mystical.
A couple of examples, and then I want to make room for a little bit of discussion. When Beth was describing your response to, oh, I want a donut, and then you had enough sincerity. I mean, I think that's what Mark would call sincerity, to go, oh, okay, so that's going to make me feel sick, it's going to make me feel bad, but I really do want the comfort of the donut. Is there something that could give me the comfort? That required a lot of sincerity, because I'm telling you, I would have eaten that fucking donut. I have my versions of the donut, because it's a little scary or requires a little tension or something to be able to hang out long enough to get a better answer than eating the donut. This is the gift of sincerity. Yeah? Now, applied to business, you can see how useful it would be. Yeah? And I'll just give you an example for me from recently. I had a client who has misunderstood a policy of mine, a policy I thought was very clear. Couldn't understand how she misunderstood it. I looked at it, and Occam's razor, she had to work pretty hard to see it the way she saw it, but it was within the limits of possibility. Like I could have been a little bit more concrete and specific about a few of the bits and pieces. So my first attempt was to try and sort of, before I got there, like try and explain to her, and this was my intention, and not, in the drama of protecting myself from what she was saying and how clear I had been, and geez Louise, what's she trying to get away with here? And then sort of, there was this little K inside of, I don't know exactly what to call that K, but we're actually going to look at those Ks in the exercise. But I finally, when I looked at the policy and I went, you know what, I really think she had a stretch to see it the way she did, that it's within the realm of possibility. I'm just going to refund her. Sincerity, let me get there, rather than all of the, I did it right and you're trying to cheat me, which may be true. Some people do try to cheat, but that's not relevant. If I looked at it and gone, there's no way she could have misunderstood this, then I said, I'm really sorry, but I think the meaning of this is super clear. If you really insist, I might have said, I'll refund you, but I want to let you know that I do think this is, I don't know what I would have done. But in the absence of that, I had to be kind of like sincere, like, on the end of a spectrum, this is a possible interpretation of the policy. This is, and then I could feel, and then I went, I was still like, oh, I lost a few dollars. It wasn't that much, really, in the big scheme of things. Something inside of me got back in alignment. Good job. Yeah. And then I wasn't trying to protect myself from anything. Remember that NLP practitioner stance stuff. She wasn't unsafe for me, I wasn't unsafe for her, and I could just be with what's really here. Now, I certainly take your point, what's real, and we can certainly go there, and we could, we can put in an addendum what's really here for me, what's really, for me to learn. I actually think there's a little bit more objective reality than we give reality credit for, but that's a whole philosophical conversation. So I want to pause for a second. We're going to go into an exercise, but before we do that, you've gotten some names, you've gotten kind of a presentation, just impressions, questions, feelings.
Can we do a bathroom break after?
Sure, before we do because I think we're a little over time.
I'm fascinated. I'm curious to see where this goes.
Yeah, I figured it might be. I mean, it's another mystical tradition, so I figured you guys would be like, oh, cool, Susie stuff.
And I do find that a lot of this is really resonating with other experiences I've had.
I actually see this as useful to give to one of my clients who is, she's Church of Latter-day Saints. I'm not sure. I know she's very active in her church, and she shows up in her writing like amazingly creative all over the place. But I know that she would respect something like this. Like I think she's someone who needs kind of here to this exercise kind of thing. And I think this would be useful for her. I would reframe it a little for her, but super useful. And
take out all the Arabic.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's references for herself.
Yeah.
And I also I think there's something I don't quite hear in what he shared, but my ability to move from, oh my God, I need this donut, to finding another way to source myself is gentleness.
Yeah.
Extreme.
Number
gentleness.
34. It's actually not on here, but there are different interpretations of the Arabic. His Sheikh's book is here with the 99 qualities in it. So there it's number 32, Al-Halim. Here, this translation is the gentle, the tolerant. And actually, for the retreat last Friday, the quality we focused on was Al-Halim. And he constantly comes back to it. Do this with gentleness. Do this with gentleness. Do this with gentleness.
And it seems in our culture, it's something that gets missed a lot in our education.
And I think it is one of the gifts of FAA, because it's Carl says, no overcoming yourself. Right? None of that push and shove.
The teacher says their greatest strength is gentleness.
There's something really super valuable, and I see that as the biggest challenge for a lot of me and my writers. Not all the time, but
And what I'm hoping is this becomes a way to kind of notice the out of resonances, the out of alignments, gently and more quickly. Yeah? Or even in a sense that if we train our critter that we're not going to bash it to pieces, if we notice an out of alignment, it will be willing to show us. And then we can do something about it if we want, or just eat pasta, which is what I do.
Well, you know, I just went and I bought 5 different kinds of gluten-free pasta. So I am stopped.
Anything else before a quick break? Okay. Can refill on tea. It's on the warmer. If there's enough water in the pot. If not, we can fill up the pot and get it warm again.
You know, this client of mine might actually really enjoy something like that.
Yeah.
Because there's such a broad.
If you Google 99 names, you'll find at least 30 or 40 websites with different versions. This is just the one I found that was simplest for me to turn into a Word document. There's one on Wikipedia I actually use quite a bit, but I couldn't cut and paste it easily. And I wish I'm sure that we could come up with them a Christian version.
Sure, all the saints and all the angels.
Well, what I mean is going through, because the way they got their list is they went through the Quran, and there are these titles for God, right? The very beginning of the Quran is what Allah, the All-Merciful, the All-Loving, the Infinitely Patient, or whatever it is. Those are the first 3 names on the list. And so someone just, some mystical mind went through and, oh, here's another name for God. Oh, there's another name for God. And, you know, in Christian tradition, it could be, you know, Savior, Rock, Eagle's Wings.
Sun, Carpenter, Fisher. Right.
And Arabic is so pretty. And Mark's got a pretty good accent.
Does he speak fluently?
Doubt it. But he got his MDiv in, he decided, he just finished. He got his MDiv and he's both got advanced teacher status with his sheikh, and he's now got a master's degree in divinity studies.
That's cool.
And he's doing it to help people in business.
Yeah,
That's what he does.
Younger, I thought it would be. There was the possibility of theology school.
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated with.
Find the right one. It's really, really important.
Well, and now I'm
not
in a different place, but I have that sort of through my ceremony community.
Oh, sure. I loved being in seminary. Just as long as you understand it's an academic exercise.
Which is also, it's interesting.
Which is fine. I mean, theology is really important. But when seminaries are supposed to be training institutions for people who are going to go out and be spiritual leaders, it's the academic model. What do I want? What do I want?
It's funny you were talking about. Whose times did you have concerns with yourself? I was doing that this morning.
Yeah, right.
I came to class
I was on the beach on Saturday at Point Reyes putting, that's that, and I was looking around to see if anyone was watching around the beach, stepping on dirt. It was really fun.
Today was the first day of kindergarten teaching for my cousin, her second year at it. We had to hold her hand. I think she came by and just hung out for hours and hours on Saturday using our printer, bouncing ideas off of us.
Is she in public school?
Yeah, in Contra Costa County, one of the low income.
How old is she?
She's 50.
Oh,
I keep telling her.
she's going to be great.
This is her second year. She's very good. She's
Oh dear.
she's good.
What were you saying about something being an academic exercise?
Seminary or theological school, it's a wonderful thing to do as long as you understand that you're going to academia. That this is not practical
What is
training for spiritual leadership.
Oh, that's so interesting.
So I was sharing it when I was younger. I was to myself, I was always fascinated by the Jesuits because I grew up kind of Catholic. Like once I hit like 10,
Jesuits are awesome.
Jesuits are awesome. Yeah, Jesuits are awesome. The Marianists are very sweet. Those are the people that I had exposure
The
to.
Trappistines up in Garberville are crazy. They're so trippy.
Well, and monks, monks in general, like every brother I've ever met has been sort of a fascinating character.
Kind of depends which one you fall into, but yeah.
Yeah. But I actually thought about divinity studies when I was younger. I've always been fascinated sort of by less the religion and more the esoteric spiritual parts. This is before I discovered.
Well, I think the thing about what Mark did is that he got the practical stuff from his sheikh. I mean, the deep mystical training.
Is that a person?
Sheikh is teacher or lead. I don't know the exact, but it's what we would call priest or
Can I bust into your other half?
oh yeah. But he got the practical teaching from his sheikh, the sort of mystical, spiritual teaching, and then he got the more academic theological learning, and the what do you call it, the degree. How are you going to some divinity school?
There's such an amazing disconnect between academic theology and like churches, like especially the more conservative ones.
Yeah. Yeah, it's well, and I got a master's degree in divinity studies, and I learned everything about the Bible and the history and systematic theology and all this stuff, and then I got thrown into a parish, and I had no clue what I was doing. I mean, I was 32 years old. I had no training, and the first day, I think it was, someone sat down. You have them make an appointment with you? Sure. Sat down and said, I'm cheating on my wife, and I don't want to tell her. And I looked around thinking, is he telling me this? What does he expect me to do about it? I got no idea what to say about this. I learned the hard way, let me tell you.
Wow.
You guys leave?
He leaves Friday. I leave Saturday.
I'm trying to going up.
We're doing that too. It's don't open Sunday. So
I heard it's a good idea to get early.
if you're part of a theme camp and you have an early entry class, you can get it early.
I see, you have to get a special class.
With a special one. Yep.
Not on campus, so so it's extra special.
It's like
You know what?
conversation right now.
I heard this Capoeira gal yesterday who was just stopping by.
Okay, back to work, you.
Mentioning Burning Man. It was kind of the first time I actually was open to the possibility of going.
Yeah, I've been having these conversations with a lot of people lately. Debbie, actually, has, not that she's actually thinking about going, she's like, after hearing you talk about it, I have a completely different perspective on it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's not interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Let's stay away.
okay, so this is going to take a little bit of setup, and then you're going to basically do constellations on your own for a little bit. But it's going to take a little bit of setup. So first, you're going to think about a past event in which you got off track, realized it wasn't the right one, and changed direction. So essentially you did this process however you did it, okay? You were blaming a friend for something, and then you kind of realized maybe you contributed to it a little bit.
You got off track, realized you did, and you got back on track.
Yeah, or a new track, the better track, or the improved track. Basically, somehow you managed to discover you were out of alignment with yourself, applied some sincerity, got the insight you needed and felt really good, and you got back in alignment. So just think of any instance. It doesn't have to be business related. We're looking for some reference case here. That's what we're up to.
I can use my donut.
Totally, you can use that.
There's times where I did do that whole donut thing, believe me.
No, but the specific time you did. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then afterwards, like, oh yeah.
A lot of mine have been after ceremonies or NLP sessions.
That's fine.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
However it happened.
All right.
However, we just need some reference case.
Sure.
Okay. So everyone got one? Could have been because someone said, dude, come on. And you went, yeah, because someone who loved you and cares about you was saying this. However it came, it doesn't matter. Okay?
Why am I blanking on this?
Would our conversation of the other day, without doing any content on the consultation, which I gave you that little example of what I would have said, and you said,
What did you say?
yeah, and any modalities can be used for evil.
Yeah.
I mean,
Ooh.
tell us more. Tell us more.
Sure, it's true.
I mean, you seem to like get back into alignment after that, or at least that's an example of I think of what we're looking for.
Yeah.
That'll work. Okay. Okay. So what we're going to look for is take a moment and find your off-track K. So it's the K of some sense of I'm not in alignment. This isn't right. However you call that. I'm just going to call that an off-track K. And it doesn't have to be specific because we're going to be doing standing anchors on this. Okay, so just visit that, step into that, feel that. Your own personal alarm system. And it doesn't have to be perfect because the constellation is going to improve this, okay? Got it well enough? Okay. Set it aside. Turn down the heat. Now, notice the moment when you felt something that made it possible to question that. And we're going to call that the sincerity K. You might call it courage. You might call it a 2x4 upside the head. It's whatever made it possible for you to reevaluate or question or something with some hope that doing so would make it better, right? Not to beat oneself up or anything like that, right? Like, I know what might make this better. I might question this. So just notice that K.
There's something in between noticing the off-track K and really questioning it. Like I feel like for me it was like it was stepping back from the off-track K and watching it rather than being in it.
Okay, so there's a like meta or observer K in there.
Right.
That might be part of your sincerity K. I mean, most Ks are amalgams. You know, remember doing strategies? If we were really to take a minute of time and pull out all the representations, we'd have 1 million representations in there. So just notice the ones that seem important. And then finally, we're going to get to the place where it's kind of resolved during the new place, more or less, and we're going to call that the congruence. Ooh, this feels good. I'm back to being me. Yay! Congruence K. Now, in the example that I gave about that client, I had some guilt Ks in there. I had some not so good Ks. That was fine. They could be held in the presence of this K. It's like, oh, I'm me again. And being me is okay. It's safe for me. It's safe for everybody else. It gets me where I want to go. Woohoo! Okay. Got these three well enough. Okay. Now set that all aside. Choose an ongoing issue right now that you're beginning to suspect there might be an alignment thing going on in it. Okay. And we're doing a business series. You might want to choose something having to do with business, but if for some reason you want to choose something else from your life, you can do that. You could make it a big deal, a small deal, doesn't really matter. Okay. Got something, Josh? Could be the pattern of that which is challenging or not working from the opening sharing.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about like maybe something around the web business, like I don't know, the next step feels kind of big and is easy to like kind of avoid. I don't know that feels exactly off track. I was noticing that if I wanted to do, I put a sales goal in terms of weeks, and I thought, wow, if I wanted to do $1,000 of sales a week, it's a big stretch. So I don't know if that's something. So it's just.
You can, by the way, for this you can use an area, so it could be income goals, about which there's some experience of not being in alignment with yourself, or it being okay, or
I have a non-business one that's really available, so maybe I'll just use that to get experience.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so you're going to set up your own constellations. You can write them down or not. I don't know why more and more I'm not writing things down on cards. I'm just saying that's that, and that's that, and that's that. But if you like writing it down, especially if there's going to be 5 things. So we've got these 3. These are just standing anchors in the NLP sense. You're going to put it down, step into it, get that K loaded there. But there's going to be a couple more. One more standing anchor. So for the current situation. What we often call in NLP the context, C, often written down with a C, the current situation, context. Actually, there's 6. 6 cards. Now, these are not standing anchors. Planning this, I realized I'd often thought standing anchors and representations were the same. There's actually some difference. Standing anchors are like, I'm going to put this K here. And this is, every time I step onto it, it's the same as with a squeezy. A representation is something you step into to get the information about the representation. Slightly, I mean, I think ultimately they're the same in some ultimate sense, but still. So these are representations. You can do a shorthand, but I'm just writing this all out. The divine quality I need in this situation. So you're not going to set this, you're going to step into it and feel it and notice it and allow the field to reveal it to you. Okay, does that make sense?
Is it the same with number 4, or is like?
No, this is just the current situation.
Yeah, but a standing anchor.
Current situation is a standing anchor.
Yep.
So, fear, blah, 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 but create that anchor. Step off. This is a representation. And then the 6th one is also representation, which you can put your word for source. Source, your preferred word for today for source.
Pretty big representation.
Carl uses it all the time.
I love it.
Yeah.
Here's God.
4 through
Stand there.
6 are check-in with your position.
What? No, 4 is a standing anchor as well.
Oh,
So yucky, 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 yucky. I hate the situation. Step in and set it.
set it. Okay.
Yeah. So 1 through 4 are standing anchors. Five through 6 are representations. We do understand that there is gray area between those two things. And now I'm going to give you a very specific instruction. Go off and play. You guys are now skillful enough. Set these 6 up. I'm going to give you at least 15 minutes. Step in and out of these, set them up. I don't know, I mean, you might just want to set them up in a line, in a circle. 6 is what? Not pentagram, it's, what's 6?
Hexagram.
Hexagon? Okay, 6. Or you might end up moving them a little bit. The chairs that Beth is sitting on and that are at the dining room table, there's one in my bedroom. Someone might want to do this in the bedroom because there's a chair left over in there from when Ezra and Beth were doing their meeting. Those chairs you can stand on. I know because I do it all the time with clients. The other chairs I do ask you not to stand on. But that's plenty for everybody. If you, like, Source wants to be big and be over the whole thing.
So how do we, what's the procedure here?
There's no procedure, sorry.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's just check-in.
Do
Why
this.
do we need the first 3 then? How do they all relate to each other?
So theoretically, one has this and then this and then this in some kind of sequence. What we want to do is set up a sense where this leads to this. More, it's like almost like a strategy installation, but we're doing it as a constellation. But to the degree in your current situation, we're stuck here probably, right? Right, because we're not into these. How do including these help support this movement more and more?
So it does feel like we're not setting the standing anchors. It feels like we're going to check in this current situation. Where am I in 1, 2? It feels like we kind of set the anchors ourselves in that first little bit you had us do, and then now in this current situation, I can go, oh, this is what's going on.
So I'm going to invite you to play with this any way that it feels right to you. The way I was more envisioning it is, what about having these 3 present, well, these 2 really, because these are the resources, right? Helps you move from here to here to here.
In relationship to 4.
Yeah. And now this is a constellation. I mean, I'm setting this up with you guys. This is the kind of thing I do all the time. I really want to set you off and play. I'm going to be really available. Okay. And I will be, like, if you need an extra representative for a minute on something. But what we want to do is, for this current situation, what helps this movement to here? So, in a sense, this representation, the standing anchor, feels like it fully belongs. Now, there's a little bit here. I mean, this is just me noticing the work I've been doing lately between past self, present self, and future self, and getting rapport between these. There's probably a relationship of rapport between these, so that we're not making this one the bad guy. We want to get rid of. You know, this is actually, noticing we're off track is actually the first step. When we're just in a rage, not you know, so I deserve my rage, or whatever it is, right? And I don't have answers for you because I actually wanted to see you play with this a little bit. Okay? And my apologies, I was telling Beth, they just started the earthquake retrofitting of the apartment building next door this morning. So I've actually been happier, it hasn't been noisier.
Yes,
We'll just include it.
Just include it, yeah.
So there's space here, in the hallway and there, and then there's a lot of room in the bedroom if you like being in the bedroom. There is, as I said, a chair there for standing on already. And I want to send you off because I want to make sure we get to the second half of the material in the last hour.
Used your rapport amongst ourselves across time in our 30-minute practice outcome frame at Hello last weekend.
Oh, good.
Because it was like we were coming right up on time. I'm like, what am I even gonna do with this person? And then it was like, I'm gonna do that. We did a little bit of it. She started crying. Life was good.
I did it with myself on the beach on Saturday.
Nice.
I'm mentioning it in a post I'm working on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be giving it to clients.
Cool. I'm gonna have to trademark this.
Yes.
I think it's very fun.
Okay, kids.
Where do you want to be?
Find different spaces.
Alright.
And are we starting? I mean, you still got your jacket on, Beth. Are we starting to get warm in here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm fine.
I'm gonna-
It's more. It's because I'm tired of it. My body
Yeah.
says
I'm gonna
"You really
open
got
this
to be in
now that the sun is finally. Well, I'm gonna be visiting you in the bedroom as well, so or wherever you are.
Yeah.
Okay. You know where a chair is if you need one to pull it out of the bedroom. Yeah, and you all just come see. That's fine. Because this is, I mean, I'd be discovering it with you. Constellations are about revealing the unconscious of systems. So as you facilitate, in a sense, your own constellation here, notice, what wants to be next to what wants to be far away from what doesn't want to be in this system yet. Feel the structure. And even if you don't have any questions yet, if you're wanting one more body so that two things can be felt at the same time, just call me over. And to the degree that you can pin down in a few words what number 5 is, does it represent that? That's 2. by the way, for those of you who are thinking of going to Bishop's Ranch, this is the sort of thing Carl does. So set this up and come back and tell me what happens. People like classical music in the background?
Straight away.
We'll sit in remembrance for a couple of minutes.
I might just carry around a card that says source. It's a good card.
For a couple of
Do you ever put them like next to each other and stand on them at the same time?
No, that would be pretty confusing.
Well, it's funny because the off-track K.
I'm sorry?
The off-track K in the current situation.
Try it. Yeah, see how limit.
Well, the current situation and the off-track K.
Actually, the current situation would be the anger or guilt or upsetness or loss or whatever. The off-track K is going, I'm out of alignment. There's something not quite right about this.
I guess in the current situation.
Okay. Okay, so that's where you are. Right.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, play with it. Sometimes and then soft other times. It sounds like your reaction to getting that needs met, which is what power. Possessor of all strength. Minutes, but I'm going to give you another 10 at this point. We make it a slightly short trip and pick up some of the next time. Distinguishing between the two, you overheard what I said to that. So you pulled out the distortions. Okay. And what's really important is whatever the distortion is, lots of it's included. And I don't know if there's one, maybe there may be a specific maybe sincerity. I don't know which one that can look at that one.